Call to order a meeting for the Normal Town Council for Monday, October 17th, 2022. Please call the roll.
Mayor Coos?
Here.
Mrs. Lorenz?
Here.
Mr. Nord?
Here.
Ms. Smith?
Here.
Ms. Harris?
Here.
Mr. Preston? Mr. McCarthy?
Here.
We'll begin with a pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have no public comment tonight. First order of business is the omnibus vote agenda, items that will be taken with one vote unless a council member would like to pull an item for discussion. Mr. McCarthy?
I would like to pull item F, as in Frank, please.
Mr. Nord?
I'd like to pull item D, as in David, and E as in Echo.
I'm sorry, D, you said?
Yes, D.
D and E. Motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Items considered under omnibus tonight are approval of the minutes of the special council meeting of October 3rd, 2022, and approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of October 3rd, 2022. A report to receive and file town of normal expenditures for payment as of October 12th, 2022, and a resolution to accept water treatment plant chemical bids from November 2022 through October 2023 and reject chlorine bids. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Lorenz?
Aye.
Mr. Nord?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy?
Aye.
Mayor Coos?
Aye. Those four items are approved. Item D is a resolution to waive the formal bid process and accept a quote from Utility Service Company Incorporated for the purchase and installation of a PAX tank mixing system in elevated tanks 1, 2, and 3. Mr. Nord?
I so move.
Second.
Mr. Nord?
Thank you. A couple of questions for this. We're replacing a mixer that's existing, but the write-up said it was installed back or purchased in 2009. What was the useful life for that? I mean, is this about time when it's ready to be replaced?
Mr. Nord, I'm not aware of the useful life. I'm going to, I guess, defer to Mr. Burkhart if Mayor and Council are okay with him coming forward to explain a little bit more about the project.
Useful life is about 10 years on that particular style of mixer.
Do you recall how much it was when we bought it 10 years ago?
Not off the top of my head.
For some reason, I want to say there was 14 grand and there was some sort of grant for that. Does that sound familiar?
I don't believe there was a grant. I could be wrong, but I believe all of the mixers that were installed originally, that Solar Bee style, were all paid for from town funds without grants.
But does that dollar amount seem
Seems
accurate?
awfully low.
Okay. But is it reasonable then to expect it's 137 to replace, we're replacing 2 or 3 for that dollar amount?
3.
3? Okay. Is that reasonable then?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And those are failing, the ones that we have?
Yes.
And switching it to or putting the same thing in isn't a good thing to do because then it would be different with what we're doing now. Is that the idea?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Further on this item? Please call the roll.
Mr. Nord?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy?
Aye.
Mrs. Lorenz?
Aye.
Mayor Coos?
Aye. That resolution is approved. Item E is a resolution to waive the formal bid process and award a contract to Game Time CO care of Cunningham Associates Incorporated for the purchase of modular playground equipment and surfacing under the OMNIA Cooperative Purchasing Program for the East Detention Park in the amount of $53,898.77 and an associated budget adjustment. Mr. Nord?
I so move.
Second.
In the write-up, it talks about this playground is going to be designed to meet or to become a national demonstration site. I'd like to hear more about what that is. Demonstration site for who?
I'll ask Mr. Damry to explain how that plays out.
Yes, that it's designed to meet the criteria of a national demonstration site. National demonstration sites are a number of different criteria that meet inclusive and accessible standards. This module piece is one of their key components in that entire design, and so the playground itself is going to be completely accessible. Now, keep in mind it's a very small playground site. So we thought it would be a nice way to put that piece of that module piece in there. It's got sensory modules throughout the panels, so it's great for sensory. Like I said, it's inclusive and it's accessible. So, but it's also fun for all kids as well.
Yeah, because we just did one at Carden Park that was supposed to be accessible as well, right?
It met the standard as well, but it wasn't a completely accessible piece because there are stairs and climbers from a certain level. So you can get up a ramp up to, I think, the third level, and then it becomes stairways and stuff. So someone in a wheelchair could get up to a third level, which is much more accessible than anything that we had done previously.
So we're not making this as a demonstration site for the company.
No,
Okay.
correct.
Demonstration site, something different than what the
Well-
layman would think when they say we're building a national demonstration site.
Right. We're just trying to meet the criteria of what a demonstration site would require.
Okay. And this is no bid. The last one that came before us for no bid, there was a financial incentive for a board you were on. Is there any financial incentive for this coming forward with no bid?
No.
Are there any other vendors that offer this type of equipment? I mean, why is this no bid? Playground equipment seems fairly common.
We work with Cunningham pretty in game time because we have for years. Most of our playgrounds are game time. Our staff, park maintenance staff, are certified to install. So there's a lot of savings involved in us installing these pieces of equipment versus another brand.
And
So-
if I could jump in, Mr. Damry, Omnia is a joint purchasing program.
Correct.
So if the price had come in at 50,000 or less, we would move forward and acquire it in compliance with the procurement policy. We're coming forward in this instance because we have only 50,000 budgeted and the price came in at nearly 53,900. So
Correct.
it's a joint purchasing program and it's equipment that we are certified to install.
So I go back to the town purchasing policy, which says that all purchases over $25,000 are subject to the competitive bid process. And we are routinely having things come before us that are well over this minimum and no bid. Even though the town may be used to using the screws and fasteners that this company uses, I mean, I'm sure those are skills that are pretty general that somebody else's bolt we can turn just as easy as this company's bolts.
So the way we would typically bid out a playground project is we set a budget amount of $50,000 and we would ask, at least this is what I would typically have done if I was going out to bid to a variety of others besides game time, is go out to bid and say, we want a $50,000 playground and we want to see what your proposal is. So the budget wouldn't really necessarily change based on the different brand. It just would change the proposal from the different company.
Yeah.
So
And if I could also jump in again, we've been over this countless times. The procurement policy, what you're quoting, Mr. Nord, is one one paragraph of the procurement policy. The procurement policy also contains language about how the municipality can purchase through a joint purchasing program. So this is in compliance with the procurement policy as it's adopted.
Okay, and I'm not talking about the budgeted amount. I understand budget is different from where we're purchasing from. But if we budget anything over $25,000, I'm gonna do this every time it comes before us. I would like to see some bids for something more than we just want to go with this vendor because it's on this state program.
It's certainly within your right to do that, Mr. Norton. You're going to get the same answer every time you do that.
Yes, then I'm gonna say again, if we're not gonna follow the policy, get rid of the policy, because a policy unenforced is no policy at all, and that's what this is.
And then read the policy, Mr. Nord, because you apparently don't understand it. Ms. Smith?
Is it the intention of the Parks Department to ultimately have all of the play equipment to be completely ADA accessible, so disabled kids and families won't have to map out where they can conveniently go to play?
It's our goal to improve on that at every site that as we move to a new site and a new installation, we intend to improve that accessibility. I don't know that we would, to become completely accessible is incredibly expensive and incredibly expansive, and so space is sometimes a limitation, money is sometimes a limitation to being completely accessible and inclusive. The rolling, what's the one in Harmony Park in Rolling Brook? That's what it's called. Is completely accessible and was I believe a $400,000 project. So we realize that's a pretty tall task to do that for 19 playgrounds. So as we move along, we definitely want to make everyone more accessible and more inclusive, but not necessarily completely.
And this particular vendor, what is their reputation for including accessible equipment in their stock?
That's kind of what this criteria that Councilman Nord referred to is part of. It's making sure that the playgrounds are not just meeting the lowest standard of what ADA would require. It's actually being more inclusive and more accessible. So it's really, they're in my mind, they're one of the leaders in the playground industry as far as offering and helping to achieve that.
So if you had sent out this bid with a $50,000 price tag on it to a variety of vendors, there may have been some that would not have included any accessible equipment in an effort to meet the bid and hope that would be attractive, but it would not be satisfying a criteria that we want to make playgrounds accessible to children and some young adults who want to play on that and have it available for their use.
That's possible, yeah. We would have tried to include it as one of the criteria that they should meet, but yeah, we would not have necessarily gotten that from everyone. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Further on this item. Please call the roll.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Preston?
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy?
Aye.
Mrs. Lorenz?
Aye.
Mr. Nord?
Aye.
Mayor Kus?
Aye. That resolution is approved. Item F is a resolution waiving the formal bidding process and authorizing the city manager to execute purchase agreements with Rivian Automotive for the acquisition of an R1T truck and an R1S sport vehicle.
Move approval.
Second.
Mr. McCarthy.
Thank you. First, I guess I want to thank Mayor, you and staff for bringing this opportunity to us. It's no surprise what Rivian's doing on our community. I think everybody's pretty well aware of the national and international attention they're getting and what they've done in terms of significant, tremendous local economic impact. Other businesses looking to locate here. I don't know what the exact total, I don't know if anybody in the room knows, but somewhere around 6,000 jobs and counting. If not already our largest, fast becoming our largest employer in our community. So an opportunity for us to show a little love for a company that's done such great things and continues to do great things for our economy and our local job scene. They're having certainly a significant impact on our housing market as well. I think it's a tremendous opportunity for us. Also, I think there's certainly some economic value that we've enjoyed directly, not just the indirect as well. I don't know the exact number. Maybe Ms. Reese, you do, but I know over the years we purchased somewhere near 40 or over 40 Mitsubishi vehicles while they were. Am I quoting that accurately?
That is correct as I understand it. I believe it's over 40, but I don't know the exact number right now.
And so certainly in a tradition of supporting one of our largest manufacturers to represent in some small way, in this case, just a couple of Rivian vehicles to use in our fleet. I think that's certainly a goodwill gesture, a good support gesture as well. Also, they've impacted our bottom line quite a bit. If we all recall, there was an economic incentive package when they came to us and asked for our support, and they had to perform and invest certain amounts in the plant and hire certain amounts of people. I believe the cap out of that was somewhere over 40 million and 500 jobs. Well, I know just in permitted investment alone, the report tells us about 500 million. But when you add up all the equipment that they've bought, all the stuff that doesn't require permits, if they're not over $1 billion investment in our local economy, they've got to be pretty darn close already just out in the plant in itself, not even talking about the economic benefit of jobs. Also, at the end of that, they were significantly ahead. We committed to pay them about $1 million. I mean, exactly $1 million, not exactly $1 million. And as the pandemic hit, as a goodwill gesture to the town of Normal, Rivian waived that payment and forgave that $1 million obligation the town of Normal and town council and the community had. And as far as I've just got an answer this afternoon, or earlier today rather, currently we are running over $2 million in permit fees from Rivian from the amount of construction permits issued. So when you start to add up all that, jobs, local investment, labor jobs, when you look at about just the permitting fees alone, not talking about property tax consequences and benefits, and forgiving $1 million in tax payments or incentive payment, I think 150 or less than 200,000, whatever it's going to be, is a pretty small comparison to the economic benefit the town has had. And I'm wholeheartedly supportive of supporting our emerging largest employer. Thank you.
Further on this item, Ms. Smith?
I was fortunate enough to have some exchanges with Ms. Reese to get some clarity on the items that Mr. McCarthy cited. I just wanted to put it on the record that the intention is that both vehicles would be joining the town's fleet of vehicles, which at this time, it's my understanding, they're used and signed out by staff as needed. And some examples that she'd provided to me would be when police and fire travel out of town for training, multiple employees can ride together, and we're using a town resource. We're not then obligated to pay mileage reimbursement for every person driving themselves in a car. So we're getting, in most part, gas vehicles off the road and putting multiple employees together in one electric vehicle. And another instance of the use of the fleet vehicle would be when the Parks Department has outings and they're taking multiple kids to some functions, they can all clamber into these vans and multi-seat vehicles as well. So the final thing on looking at an electric vehicle One Mitsubishi car in the space of 11 years was reported to have their only maintenance expense, the replacement of 4 tires and windshield wipers. So I think this will give us a good opportunity to track how efficient this alternate electric transportation is. But as the only location of where these cars are built, to have an example of their trucks and the SUV, I think is something that would represent the town well. And the only other question I had, if Ms. Reese had a chance to find out, is we put $1,000 down, and my understanding is that for the individuals who did that, Rivian was going to hold to the original quoted price. Do we know if we're getting that on both the truck and the SUV, and if we forfeited the deposit and were to try to buy one later, do we know what the markup would be at that time?
I can give estimates. I don't know absolutes, but it's my understanding that if we chose to not purchase our vehicles and to get a full refund of the $1,000 per vehicle that we put down, to go back in the queue and try to order vehicles down the road would be almost an additional $15,000 to $20,000 per vehicle.
Thank you.
Mr. Preston?
Thanks, Mayor. I will echo the general thoughts that Rivian has been a tremendous asset to our community and to our region since they first came. Their growth has been impressive, unique, and something that I know all of us are quite proud of that it's taken place in this community and in Normal specifically. The question I have, Mr. McCarthy had brought up all of the additional work since acquiring the plant that Rivian has done, and the about $2 million in permit fees revenue that came in to the town as a result of that. What fund did that $2 million in permit fees from Rivian's expansion come into? Where is that money in the town's budget?
Building permit fees are revenue to the general fund.
Okay. I personally think that it would be very fitting to replace our fleet vehicles with these 2 new Rivians out of funds that the town got because of their expansion. That is a clear link between Rivian's success and the town's efforts here. It also is not taxpayer dollars. It is money generated because of Rivian's expansion here. That's the only reason that money came in. Hence that those dollars being utilized for this makes a lot of sense to me, and I would push very strongly for that to be the case.
Thank you. Further? You both went simultaneously.
Go ahead.
That's an intriguing idea. I wasn't going to say anything right away, but that's an intriguing idea that Mr. Preston raises. What would be required to do that, to make that happen? His suggestion.
I don't know that, sorry, turn my microphone off. I don't know that any formal action would be necessary. Council could give us by consensus that direction if they so choose. Ordinarily, we would pay for a vehicle out of the Vehicle and Equipment Replacement Fund. Technically, that fund is funded by transfers from the general fund. But we could, with council direction, you could either amend the motion and say to pay, I suppose amend the motion and say pay directly through the general fund, or you could just provide direction in that regard, and we could do that.
I would be more comfortable with just providing direction.
Okay. We would then have some extra cash in the general or in the Vehicle and Equipment Replacement Fund later. We can deal with that later with some other attention and action, but that would just provide staff direction on how we're going to cut the check. Out of what fund.
Do I still have the floor? what would be the difference between direction versus an amendment?
The outcome would be the same.
What's the downside of making an amendment versus a direction, council direction?
I think there's clear understanding that that's what we'd like to do, and if that staff's given that direction, that's what they'll do.
Correct. And then ultimately when we do, assuming this passes, when we do acquire the vehicles, you would see in the bills the expense paid out of administration or something like that, rather than vehicle and equipment replacement. So you would see that outcome.
And is there any reason to make a symbolic, I suppose, transfer of the seven, or what would it be, 70 times 2, 140,000 into the vehicle to make that crystal clear, or not necessarily?
I don't think that would be necessary. The funds currently exist in the vehicle and equipment replacement fund, but we can pay for these separately, again, presuming council approval, out of the general fund if that's the direction council wishes. And then we can, in the future, deal with that extra 150,000 we've got in the vehicle and equipment replacement fund.
That's all I have.
Mr. Nord?
Thank you. Is this a need purchase or is this a want purchase? This is a luxury vehicle we're talking about. This isn't just, a vehicle that gets us from A to B. This is, Rivian's in the luxury vehicle market. So is this a need purchase or is this a want purchase?
I would disagree that it's a luxury vehicle. I would agree that it's an expensive vehicle.
Well, I would say that if we look at any of the car reports, they do say that Rivian is in the luxury vehicle market in their segment. So we could actually contact Rivian and ask them if all these news agencies that are reporting on them are reporting false information, that they're not a luxury vehicle. Is that what the town is saying, is Rivian is not a luxury vehicle? They're just expensive?
You have the floor, Mr.
I'm asking. Because you
I
interrupted
made
me.
my statement.
Point of order, I don't think we're here to establish whether Rivian is a luxury vehicle manufacturer or not. I don't think that that's mentioned anywhere in the proposal.
No, but in Rivian's news reports, that's what is written. So my question, Ms. Reese, since you're asking for these two vehicles, is this a need purchase that the town needs these, or is this a want purchase that we want them to be Rivians?
Ms. Reese, I ask you to not answer that question. You can ask that question of the town staff, since it's the town council, since it's the town's council decision to move forward on this.
The report that is presented to us, it's prepared by Pamela S. Reese, reviewed by Eric Hansen. Staff recommendation, approval. There's nothing on here for the council. I'm asking staff.
It's the
Staff
council's,
brought this before us.
council's decision, Mr. Nord, so ask that question of the council.
I appeal the decision of the chair. Staff brought this question before me. I'd like to ask staff a question. Mr. Day?
Any point of information or questions are at the discretion of the chair. So whatever the chair says, unless the council wants to override the vote of the chair.
So our parliamentarian is saying that an elected council person, I cannot ask staff a question if the town mayor tells me that staff cannot answer my questions in an official public meeting. Is that correct? Am I
That's not
understanding
correct,
that?
Mr. Nord. I'm saying you can't ask staff to answer that question.
Whether this is a need or a want purchase. All right.
You can ask us.
I would appeal the decision of, well, I would like a vote on that then. I'd like the council to vote on it. I'd like to appeal the decision of the chair and have the council vote on it.
Does the council need a reason to vote on
The
this?
proper form is a motion to overrule the chair.
There you go.
Requires a second because this is a speaking decision. There's no discussion on it.
And I move to overrule the decision of the chair.
A yes vote overrules the decision of the chair. A no vote sustains the decision of the chair.
And to clarify, I'm just asking for the people that presented this.
Do we need
to
a
ask my
second on
question.
this motion?
Yes.
Do we have a second?
I mean, I'll second it. It's just so we can ask the question. Is that right? I'll second. And see how-
No
So
discussion.
explain a no vote is.
The motion is to overrule the ruling of the chair. So a yes vote will, sorry, this is a weird backwards. You vote no to overrule the chair, or to sustain the chair, you vote yes to overrule the chair. So if you want to sustain the chair, it's a no vote. If you want to overrule the chair, it's a yes vote.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Harris,
No.
Mr. Preston,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
No.
Mrs. Lorenz,
Oh. No, sorry.
Mr. Nord,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
No.
Mayor Kus,
No. The request fails, so continue, Mr. Nord.
Wow, I just want to make sure that everybody's aware that I can't even ask staff questions. So when you guys bring stuff before me, I mean, the public, if you're watching, I can't ask questions.
Mr. Nord, you're out of order.
We're spending money on a luxury vehicle. I can't ask staff questions, so I guess I'll just keep going down. And so this could be a want purchase. We don't know because staff won't tell us. I can't ask if this is part of a joint purchasing agreement because this is over $25,000. Or can I ask other questions, or is it
Sure.
going to be no?
Ask away.
All right. Is this part of a joint purchasing agreement? Is there a reason why this is not bid out if we need two vehicles?
As indicated in the resolution and the title of the report, it says resolution waiving the formal bidding process, which we do regularly. You've pointed out numerous times. So we believe, no, back to your question, it is not a joint purchasing program.
Okay. And the exemptions, sole source purchase, there's many people that make vehicles. It's not a redundant purchase because we don't have them, and it's not a replacement purchase because we're not replacing anything. It doesn't qualify for it not to be bid out. The Mitsubishi vehicles, those were not luxury vehicles. So for us to compare that, hey, we bought vehicles from Mitsubishi, that is not an apples to apples or even an honest and transparent comparison because they were not in the luxury vehicle market. Taxpayers, we've given well over $49 million in taxpayer incentives to this company. We've extended water service out there without charging them, extending sewers. We're redesigning all of college. We're doing the trail. We gave them Electric Avenue. So the taxpayers have given a whole lot. Now we're buying two vehicles from Rivian. Rivian's got no shortage of customers. This is not a knock on Rivian. There is no shortage of customers. They can't produce enough vehicles for how many customers they have. This is a want purchase from the town. We don't even have a dollar amount on here. Is there a cap as to how much we're spending, or is this just a blank check? Whatever options you want and whatever the cost is, we're just going to pay it because there is no cap. Is there a cap?
We have, in terms of, I believe the report says funds are budgeted. We have $149,000 budgeted. That's very transparent.
Well, it's not written on here, and we've had lots of other things that have come before us that we under budgeted, and we had to get more money. So I don't like this coming before us with no spending cap. This is literally a blank check. It says the town pre-ordered one electric and one truck and one SUV. I searched the records for when this council approved us purchasing these. When did the town pre-order these?
Mr. Nord, I actually pre-ordered those,
Are you the town?
sometimes.
So in that transaction, you can commit the taxpayers to buying these vehicles and call it that the town is purchasing it.
No,
I
Mr.
think
Nord,
that is-
what I did is I authorized a totally refundable $1,000 deposit on each vehicle.
Well, then this report is misleading because the town did not pre-order these. Mayor Coos pre-ordered them. And now taxpayers are being asked to commit to buying these. And as far as
No, actually,
Buying.
they're being asked tonight.
we're being asked tonight to spend nearly, well, at least $150,000 on two vehicles, two luxury vehicles. I think taxpayers ought to be happy we didn't get like a Ferrari dealership here, because that's what we'd be looking at buying. Now, as far as spending this money because they're a local company, I do think it's good to spend money locally, but this council has refused to buy health insurance, liability insurance, property casualty insurance from our local insurers, even though they bid less, because town staff said that they had a preference to go with these outside companies. So to claim, hey, all of a sudden we're not going to buy from Rivian because they're local, I think is being very untransparent as well. I don't support this. I think this is a very entitled ask by town staff. These are luxury vehicles. I don't think that the taxpayers who have been financially hurt through all of COVID, and now taxes are skyrocketing all over the place, for this town to say, hey, we are so entitled that we need luxury electric vehicles. If we want a green vehicle, let's bid and look at green vehicles and get ones that are the most efficient, that will actually produce some sort of green effort. But not just say, hey, just because they're Rivian and they're a luxury vehicle and we want to feel good driving these, we need the taxpayers to buy them. Ms. Reese, the taxpayers pay over $150,000 a year in total compensation for you. You can easily afford to buy one of these if you want to drive one of these, but don't make taxpayers pay for these.
Again, Mr. Nord, you're making reference to Ms. Reese. It's the council's decision.
Ms. Reese is the one that brought this to us. I go back to the beginning of the front page.
At the request of the council.
It's not the request of the council. You put the money down. You alone. None of the council did. Ms. Reese is on here. It's prepared by, it's reviewed by the assistant manager. It doesn't say the council did anything on here. So I don't get where you're saying that the council brought this forward. If the council brought this forward, then council, raise your hand. Who are the 4 people that said they wanted to bring this forward? Because transparently, this says Ms. Reese wanted to bring it forward.
Ms. Cumming, Ms. Harris.
It's okay. A couple questions I have, and then I have a quick statement. Are we still a part of the EV Town initiative?
Yes.
Okay. Are we still committed to being a leader in the EV Town initiative? Okay.
I would say yes.
I asked these questions because I know initially why we even began to get a few EV vehicles in our fleet were because of that. And one of them did have EV Town at one point even put on the side of them. So in my mind, and anybody else can be different, for me, I could understand if we're going to be a leader in this initiative, why we would not have some in our fleet. We know that they're expensive, so we can't have a ton. We just can't afford to have a ton of them in our fleet. For me, it wouldn't sit right to find another company when there's one right here who is an electric vehicle company, and has significantly contributed to our economy and continues. It's not like it's going to stop the minute we buy 2 vehicles. So for me, in the space that I sit in the mindset that I have, I wish we could do more of our fleet in electric vehicles. It's where we're going in our future. And if we're trying to reduce our carbon footprint, would be great. However, we know it's expensive. We know that it's costly at this time, and we have to be considerate of that. But I think it's a wonderful opportunity for us to at least continue to keep a couple of those electric vehicles in our fleet. And even better, if I was even Rivian, I would be offended if we bought a Tesla or anything else to put on our fleet. to say that we're still a leader in the EV Town initiative. So I think this is a great idea. I mean, electric vehicles are just expensive right now. So that we are aware of. But I think this is a good investment for us to continue to move in that way of showing how much of an EV town we're really trying to be and be a leader in that initiative. Thank you.
Mr. Preston?
Thanks, Mayor. I just want to go back to a point in my earlier remarks and confirm that I understood correctly that it is understood that a yes vote tonight would mean that these purchases would be paid for by revenues that came in as a result directly from the expansion that Rivian has made to that plant in Normal, their investment in Normal, that resulted in about $2 million in permitting fees to the town. This expense tonight would be coming from those dollars, not from tax dollars. Did I understand correctly?
Well, that's a little bit tricky, Mr. Preston, because we don't track dollars for dollars. When money goes into the general fund, we usually don't say, and we've had this conversation recently trying to explain our transportation revenues. But the money that goes into the general fund, a portion of those revenues are paid through building permit fees. And since Rivian has started work out at the plant the last few years, we have received over $2 million in revenue from building permit fees alone, and that has been deposited into the general fund. That, of course, general fund dollars support the whole operation. Can I say that those $100 here can be directly tied to this $100 expense over here? No, but we ordinarily haven't done that, other than, let me jump aside and talk about transportation. Our transportation revenues, we have said, come from locomotive fuel tax, road and bridge, things like that, and we can show that an equivalent dollar amount is spent supporting transportation-related projects and expenses. So we show that link. We don't track dollar A being spent over here at dollar A. But we can say with certainty and confidence, the revenues from building permit fees that go into the general fund support operations, and if this expense occurs and council wants us to be paid for through the general fund, that would be the link there. The general fund is comprised of all sorts of taxes and user fees, and Children's Discovery Museum fees, admission fees, all sorts of things go into the general fund, including building permits.
Well,
Ms. Lorenz?
do I have one more bite at the apple? All right, thank you. I'll just go on record since others have said it too. I'm a huge supporter of Rivian. Voted for them the first time when they came here back in 2016. I think everybody on this council sees, and everybody in this chamber, everybody in this community knows the positive impact and how absolutely fortunate we are to have them in town. I voted for their Electric Avenue. I voted for the renaming of Mitsubishi Parkway to Rivian. Sometimes I've joked with people that I would vote for them to put, Stay Puft Marshmallow Man on their property, whatever they want, because of the impact they have done for this community, and we're grateful. What a cool company. They've certainly had headwinds in their startup, and yet they seem to be persisting and prevailing. So can't say enough positive things about them. I am concerned about a couple of things, some of which Mr. Nord brought up, and I'm going to try to couch them a little less combative, in the sense that I am concerned that there wasn't a dollar figure put on there, and that feels a bit like a blank check. And we all know intuitively that it's around $70,000. But I think it was even the Panagraph, I think, that one of the news outlets that reported that a range can be anywhere from 70 some to 100,000, depending on a package. So it feels a little strange not to have a not to exceed. And I'm also concerned about the fact that we really can't. I liked the idea that Mr. Preston brought up, but I'm concerned now with some subsequent comments that we really can't track that to being the source of what would pay for these. And so, overall, it's a great idea. My concern is that it's not been really teed up in a way that feels entirely comfortable and entirely forthright in terms of what we're getting into and how it's being funded. If I had a magic wand right now, I would have liked to have seen a dollar amount not to exceed of some sort, and I would have liked to have seen some acknowledgement in our report that we would be voting on that track, even though it's not done customarily, but that would track at least symbolically through a transfer of these funds from general fund to vehicle equipment that would be able to, where I could assure taxpayers that it, but for the success and expansion of Rivian, we wouldn't be getting these trucks. But because they are doing so well, and we want to continue that, and we feel like it's the right thing to do, therefore we're purchasing these two vehicles. Without that information, I'm left feeling a little wanting for more details, and that concerns me.
I will offer one thing of clarification, because people are afraid of a blank check, is the vehicles that were ordered are the base vehicle with no additions. It's the absolute base vehicle.
And information like that has been coming out all day long, I feel like. Suddenly information about $2 million, and I knew it was at least hundreds of thousands of dollars. I didn't realize it was actually in the millions of dollars of fees incurred due to their expansion. Why wasn't this information put in the report? Why weren't we given better? I mean, it's maybe perhaps more of a rhetorical question. Why weren't we given more details for this? It's difficult for me to make a decision on this without a lot of information other than what's being kind of brought through the grapevine. And that's concerning to me and giving me pause. I'm
I
conflicted.
can understand that. A couple of things I absolutely could have, had someone inquired, I could have simply pointed to the Vehicle and Equipment Replacement Fund, which shows $149,000 in administration. That's what this purchase would be for. In terms of putting in how much we have received in revenue from building permit fees, that was only a topic of discussion today. It didn't come up prior to today. I thought, frankly, there was plenty of information in the report, but clearly not for everyone. So that said, though, I do want to jump back to the general fund conversation. The over $2 million in revenues from fees are over a period of multiple years. So that would be multiple years of revenue going into the general fund. General fund supports operations. So we're not talking $2 million just this year. We're talking $2 million over the course of 4 or 5 years. In addition, the $1 million payment that we were obligated to make to Rivian per our development agreement would have been paid by the general fund. So that was $1 million savings to the general fund in 2020 when we did not make that payment. Back to what I understood Mr. Preston's original question to be, can this purchase be paid from the general fund? Yes, it absolutely can. We can deduct those funds from the general fund account. Can we be in a position to say we absolutely took multiple years of permit fee revenue? And are using that to pay for this, not directly, but we can say we received over $2 million in revenue. We retained $1 million grant. All of that occurred in the general fund, and we're recommending we acquire just these 2 vehicles. The relationship, as there was another comment earlier about Mitsubishi vehicles, that was again just in response to an inquiry I received today. That's why I don't have the specific number of Mitsubishi vehicles we have owned historically, but it would appear that over the course of a 10 or 15 year period, we purchased 40 plus Mitsubishi vehicles. That's just information in response to an inquiry. So with that said, I think that staff is simply making a recommendation based on the information we've provided in the report, and as I understood this particular purchase to be since 2018, and I'll just leave it up to council discussion on whether or not you think this is appropriate.
Mr. Nord.
Thank you. Some things to think about. Rivian's not the only vehicle that makes trucks. Ford owns part of Rivian. They have a Ford Lightning, which is an all-electric vehicle. So if we have to have an electric pickup truck, there's other options. I'm sure there's other vehicle manufacturers out there as well. Again, this is about cost. We are making a decision on buying luxury. We haven't even talked about the use, the function. That's what government should be buying, is based on use and function. But, everybody up here wants to buy based, or I don't know if everybody does, but at least the people that put this together, and I guess the mayor, since he put the money down, they want to buy this based off of luxury. And that is the wrong reason why government exists. Taxpayers are going to look at this purchase as to how people voted. And when you're campaigning and say that the town is fiscally responsible, or when we're just up here talking about how the town is so fiscally responsible whenever we're going to raise their taxes, when we're going to raise their water fees, I hope whoever's sitting up here looks back at this vote and they point out that we spent $150,000 plus on luxury vehicles, just 2 vehicles. Taxpayer waste, we're spending more than what is needed for the purpose that we're trying to achieve. Taxpayer abuse, I think it's abusive for government to be buying luxury vehicles. If you Google this, you'll see countries that have stopped buying luxury vehicles because their citizens have just got in an uproar because they see their elected officials drive around in luxury vehicles while they are struggling to survive. And, from Rivian's point of view, I could see it would be better for Rivian if we don't buy these, because we're buying them at what the cost was a long time ago. If we forfeit our place in line, now the next person that's going to get these vehicles, they're going to get them at the higher price, thus giving Rivian more money. So really, it's in Rivian's best interest that we don't buy these at the discounted rate. And saying that, Rivian's brought all of these good things to the community, which they have. We also need to look and say it's beyond just this $2 million that we've gotten in these fees that we need to look at. We also need to look at how much has the town spent over these years, and are we close to break even or not? Because we haven't seen that. For years we were plowing snow. We've put in more than what Rivian has given us back yet. It's going to take years for us to get all these incentives paid back, and I hope they will. But the other part that I just don't like with this is this was put in the omnibus agenda. The omnibus agenda, according to the municipal code, is supposed to be for things that are routine in nature, regular. That's the rubber stamp agenda area. And we've put buying luxury vehicles in the rubber stamp agenda. There's no doubt in my mind it's going to get rubber stamped through. It's just, I think it's very, it's very disingenuous to the taxpayers to put that in the rubber stamp agenda where, you know, a lot of taxpayers don't even look anyway because it's supposed to be routine in nature. And this is far from routine.
Ms. Smith?
I want to push back on several things that have been raised. First of all, the city manager was doing her job when she compiled the information for us to review. Some of the expanded information that is being raised tonight that wasn't included in that came as a result of council members doing homework and looking into the issue and asking questions, which, as part of her job, the city manager came back with responses. I know I was looking for a way to get to yes, because this is more than a vote about do we need a truck and an SUV in our fleet. It's about supporting a company that's a startup that came to our community, saw an abandoned plant, and saw the potential for building a factory that would compete with other electric car manufacturers. And they were the first to come out with a truck that was electric. And for that reason, I think it's very important for us to recognize the contribution they've made, because that $2 million in building permits goes beyond what Rivian hired in their factory. That represents good construction jobs on their site that are contributing to our community. And there's no $49 million that the town of Normal provided to Rivian, as a colleague referenced earlier. And as far as making installations of infrastructure, if we are to grow, it is my hope that we will provide that infrastructure and attract new industries, new residents to our community. Because the choice is either to grow or stagnate and die. If you think of a tree gets taller every year. When it stops getting taller, then you have to start looking at cutting it down. So this isn't a simple question of, does the town need a truck and an SUV added to their fleet? We don't need it. What we want is to demonstrate our support for a company that has come to our little town and established a major manufacturing enterprise that is attracting ancillary vendors to look at us who never before saw that, I'll be damned. They've got 3 expressways that intersect at Normal. They've got rail service. And so we are getting on the map because of them. And it's causing headaches to some extent, which change will do. And so what we're looking at doing as a council, not because of the staff, is saying, yes, this is something that we support because we have this company that took a chance on us, and we want to say we appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. McCarthy?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things, I guess. Statement was made that the town has paid Rivian a number of incentives. That's actually not true. The town of Normal has not written one check to Rivian or done anything like that, for the record. It's said that Rivian isn't the only electric truck manufacturer in the world. It is, however, the only electric truck manufacturer inside the town of Normal. And that's a significant difference here. This isn't about cost and function that's been suggested is the only role of government. This is an economic development function that government also plays a role in. And so this is about supporting a local company that Ms. Smith so aptly said has invested in us, and we're turning around and investing in them. If we want to try to math this and finance this and deduce this down to no social or economic value besides dollars and cents and costs and revenue, I suppose you could try to do that. But if you're going to do that, then you can't stop short with the math. You actually have to do all the math. And all the math would mean, oh, we're going to look at costs. Well, let's look at all the other revenues that are coming directly and indirectly to our community as a result of Rivian's substantial investment here, like property tax for houses that their employees have purchased, all the sales tax that they purchase in our local stores, all the people they keep employed because they're shopping in our stores, all the food and beverage tax. We could go on and on and on and on and on about how positive and the substantial amount of revenue as from Rivian as an economic engine. But that's not what the conversation was about tonight. Conversation was about, we've got a great employer that's doing great things on our community. They've literally probably spent somewhere near $1 billion investing in our community so far. I don't know what the exact number is. Don't quote me, media outlets, please, because I don't have that accurately. I'm sure somebody at Rivian could tell us if they're willing. But, 150 or so thousand when we can directly point to 3 million of direct positive economic impact in our general fund. To spend 150 or so thousand, I'm fine with. I think it's just smart all the way around, in addition to all the other things about low cost of maintenance and all those good positive things, and it being an electric vehicle. We, a good number of years ago, created a community-wide sustainability plan and a task force that was tasked for 2 years ago. We talked about transportation of the future. This sort of thing was envisioned, so it's also in line with hundreds of community members that said this is what they want us to do in the future. And so this aligns with so many things that the town of Normal is about, so much good and positive that's happening, and it's unfortunate that we're trying to deduce it down to some lowest common denominator conversation. With that, I'm supportive.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Preston?
No.
Mr. McCarthy?
Aye.
Mrs. Lorenz?
No.
Mr. Nord?
No.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Harris?
Aye.
Mayor Kus?
Aye. The resolution is approved. We have no general orders tonight, or new business, or public comment. So we go to concerns before adjournment. Mr. Nord?
Thank you. A concern that I want to bring up is that I'm concerned when town staff are being told not to answer questions by any particular council member. An example, tonight, I was told town staff were not able to answer a question. This has happened repeatedly. This happens outside of council as well. I asked last week for the town attorney to provide some information based on how the town is legally operating as an incorporated town when we don't have an elected clerk. And there were multiple citations where we do, and I got a response back from Ms. Reese today saying that staff will not be directing time to this requested search, and should council members wish to discuss the position of not answering my question, that we should meet privately to talk about that. This is the public's business. The public's business needs to be discussed in the public. When we are not transparent enough to tell the public what is going on with their business, and that the mayor and town manager are telling staff not to answer a council member's question. We were all elected by the people. okay? We have all the same rights to ask the town staff questions as to how our constituents' dollars are being spent. And when staff are told not to answer questions, that is wrong. That is absolutely wrong. You know, the town attorney, even in his, in the municipal code, where it talks about his department and his responsibilities, it says that the corporation counsel shall be the legal advisor to the town and shall render advice on all legal questions affecting the town whenever requested to do so by any town official. It doesn't say only by town officials that the mayor says, okay, he can answer, or the town manager says, okay, he can answer. It says any. And, you know, this just keeps happening. I've brought this issue up before in the past. You know, I even went to the HR department and said, HR, I feel like I'm being discriminated against because I'm being told I can't have my questions answered, but everybody else can. You know, I'm going to continue to do this in public because this needs to stop. The public needs to be aware that this is what happens when you are a minority perspective on this council. Thank you.
Mr. Nord, I want to clear up one thing. Maybe I wasn't clear enough, but what I was saying is I'm not going to allow you to ask town staff to defend positions that the town council made, that those decisions should come, those questions should come to the town council and not the staff. It is not staff's job to defend our decisions. It's our, Mr. Nord, it's our decision.
The question I asked specifically was whether this was.
Mayor, are we
lead or
debating
what?
and concerns? This issue's over. I mean, this isn't what council concerns is about, a back and forth or a debate.
I agree. Mr. Preston.
Yeah, I think town staff does a great job, and I want to commend Ms. Reese and the team. I think there is a reason that the council is more than a single individual. I think the people of Normal have represented or have elected all of us to be representatives, and as a democracy, majority rules, and I think that's a good thing for all of us. With that, I also want to transition to my originally planned comments and just say congrats to ISU on a great homecoming. Weather was perfect on Saturday, and I know their football team won, which was also exciting. So, congrats to the Redbirds.
Mr. McCarthy.
Yeah, just a couple of things in response, unplanned, but I feel response that government should only do everything out in the public. We know that there's plenty of good reasons for closed-door executive sessions, matters of personnel, legal, and the like, and there's plenty of good basis in law for those things to happen. Also, it just, you know, for kind of general population or information rather, and you know, a substantial amount of staff time is spent on answering the same questions over and over, 2, 3, 5, 8 times repeatedly. At some point, that becomes an excessive waste of staff time and public dollars. And so at points, I fully agree. I don't know when those happen, but I know they have in the past when the city manager makes an executive choice to not spend further dollars answering the same questions over and over and over again with no seeming impact. I support that. I think Mr. Preston made an excellent point about a democracy. We all up here got elected in the town of Normal to represent, and I think it's working. For my regularly scheduled comments, first I want to give a shout out to where is he? Is he in the room? Mark Clinch. He's not here. Just want to say congratulations on earning a master's degree from NIU recently to him. I do want to mention that treat feast is coming up on October 27th in Uptown. Staff, do I have that right? October 27th. Anybody? Class? Okay. I got a thumbs up from Cultural Arts. That means I'm doing okay. The streets will be closed, so just FYI on that one. Keep the kids safe. Haunted trails going on. The not so scary is this weekend. The scary is next weekend. So bring your kids for whatever their pleasure is on the Constitution Trail. That's always a great time out there. And last but not least, I did see that we have a number of staff members who are running a local half marathon this weekend, and just want to say what a cool challenge for staff to try to take that on, and it's fun, and just want to say good luck. Sadly, I won't be out at that event this year. I'll be out of town, but have a blast, and good luck.
Ms. Lorenz?
Just very quickly, I want to say thank you for all the times that the staff have answered my questions. They have always been very amenable, and I just want that on the record that they've availed themselves, I think, routinely to all of us where that's relevant, and appreciated the tour tonight of the water plant. So thank you very much.
One more.
Go right ahead.
Coming up on Thursday, there is a fundraiser for Special Olympics at the Castle Theater, where you get a chance to see a lip sync competition and adults making fools of themselves for a good cause. So if you have Thursday night free, please look into that. But on a more serious note, coming up in November, and it'll be before our next council meeting, I believe it's November 3rd, the plan is to rededicate the memorial, the Veterans Memorial, on the Courthouse Square in downtown Bloomington. And if you have an opportunity to attend those ceremonies, I ask that you do. Thank you.
Motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. McCarthy?
Aye.
Mrs. Lorenz?
Aye.
Mr. Nord?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Preston?
Aye.
Mayor Kus?
Aye. We are adjourned.